It's going to be an interesting offseason for Columbus. So I've been doing this series now, for weeks, and here we are. We're up to the Columbus Blue Jackets, the most interesting of the bunch, really. And what's odd is Columbus is not a very interesting franchise over its history, and I'll explain this. Columbus never been out of the first round until this year. Columbus, if I want Columbus gear, I'm not going to find it locally. I have two Columbus hats, two, because I can't find any locally. They don't even stock them. I don't think I've ever seen Columbus hats locally here, and of course, it all goes by popularity, and Columbus, not a popular team. And this offseason could very well go to deciding if this team can make the playoffs for 4 straight years, have sustained success, because nothing sells better than success. And this year they kind of had that in the postseason. 47, 31, and 4 was their record this year, 98 points. They get to round two. Last year they were 45, 30, and 7. They had 97 points, so they were only 1 point ahead of last year's total. The year before that they were 50, 24, and 8. 108 points. And they lost in the first round to Pittsburgh. Now, the good news for Columbus is they've lost to the Stanley Cup champion twice, and we have yet to see whether or not Boston could be Stanley Cup champion. I don't dare to dream of it. I don't. But they've lost to the Stanley Cup champions twice out of the last 3 years. We'll see whether or not the third is the case as well. They did win 7 of their last 8 games to get in the playoffs. They went into the playoffs on a hot streak, and then they swept Tampa. And sweeping Tampa made them a very popular team. All of a sudden, they were the sexy pick to, hey, these guys are going to go all the way. I remember coming out of the first round seeing some people saying, hey, I think Columbus and Colorado can do this the whole way through. Look what they did to Calgary and Tampa. And so, I thought it was a good story too. And I like to see Cinderella stories go as far as they can. The clock struck midnight in the second round against Boston. And now it's up to those in charge of the Columbus Blue Jackets to decide what's going to happen next. Even John Davidson, there's been speculation about whether or not he might go to the Rangers in the offseason, and that would change the upper management structure in Columbus as well. They currently have $51.5 million spent for next season, with a cap that's expected to be as high as $83 million. That leaves them a lot of money. But unrestricted free agents, Panarin has all but said he's leaving. Duchesne has said, I'm willing to talk to this team about staying. I might be willing to stay, but I want to see what's out there too. Biggest decision of my career, so I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. Ryan Dzingel may stick around, but you've got to watch with Dzingel how much you pay, because he didn't fit in tremendously well with Columbus. And I'm saying right now, and this is as a Ryan Dzingel fan, this season was a career year for him. I'd be very surprised if he scores 20 goals again next year. Very surprised. That's not really his game. He's an energy guy. He's a third-line guy who can fill in top six if needed, but the 20-25 goal scorer, that's not really been his game until this season. Bobrovsky, of course, is a huge name. 8 shutouts for him during the regular season, and they will definitely miss him in net. Absolutely. Now, with Bobrovsky, we'll come back to it, and whether or not with Columbus he may be able to fix it from within, or whether or not they need to look outside the organization. McQuaid leaving. I could see Columbus bringing him back, but it does mean they're looking for some physicality on that blue line, and I might just have the UFA for them if it all works out and if they can maintain it all under that cap. That $32 million could disappear quickly. Restricted free agents, Sedlak, arbitration rights, he's not going to get a big raise. Hannakainen, he was a healthy scratch at points. Not going to be a big raise for him either. Werenski, there's your raise. Zach Werenski, coming off of his entry-level contract, he's got to be worth at least, $6-7 million a year? So that'll lead into what they have right there. Harrington, arbitration rights. Glendening, arbitration rights again. Those guys don't get big raises. Korpisalo, well, it depends. Does Korpisalo stick around as the backup? Is he going to be a 1A, 1B situation? Korpisalo's going to get a raise. And Ryan Murray, I would argue, if not for injury, would be looking at a healthy raise off the, I believe it was $2.85 million he made this year. So Murray and Werenski may very well eat into how much money they have left over. And if they can keep Duchesne and Dzingel, that would eat into a lot of what's left as well. Now, when you look at the prospects, Foodie, I thought, had a pretty decent preseason. We'll see if he can stick. Vladislav Gavrikov, it was clear in the playoffs. They didn't just bring this guy in as a fill-in. He's going to be part of this defense for at least next season. And Elvis, who they drafted a while back, he decides to play in Sweden rather than playing over here. He may very well be their starting goalie next year. There's whether it's Korpisalo or if Merzlikins doesn't really matter. Depending whether he is the starter or the backup, I will be cheering for him rather loudly. And of course, Alexander Texier will have his rookie season officially next year. Kind of had baptism by fire in the playoffs this year, which can only help him for his rookie year next year. So there are some good things coming into the lineup for Columbus. And then when you look at unrestricted free agents, even if all these guys leave, you've got Skinner out there, probably a 30-goal scorer. I say probably because he may be a 40-goal scorer, but you're likely going to get 30 out of him. Maybe 35. Tyler Myers is the defenseman I look at and I say, you know what, if Columbus decides to go big with their blue line, if they want a big physical presence, Tyler Myers would be fantastic. And just imagine the blue line you could have out there then. Because while Murray was fantastic, can you bet on him being healthy all year? The answer is probably not. Kevin Hayes might be a cheaper alternative to the guys who are going out the door. Might be capable of 50, 55 points in a season. Anders Lee is an interesting one out of the New York Islanders. If he doesn't re-sign with the Islanders, that'd be kind of a shocker. Jordan Eberle, I'd be less shocked if Jordan Eberle ends up becoming an unrestricted free agent this summer. And Eberle might be a good pickup on the wing for them. Sort of a cheaper version of what Panarin brings. And I mean cheaper as in he's not in that area at all, but he is a top 6 forward. Matt Zuccarello, if Zuccarello doesn't end up re-signing in Dallas, and there are Rangers fans kind of hoping he re-signs in Dallas, although there's Ranger fans also who'd like to see him back with the Rangers. If Zuccarello becomes a UFA, there will be likely somewhat of a bidding war, but again, probably cheaper than Panarin to have Zuccarello come in. Gustav Nyquist, who's having a pretty good run for the San Jose Sharks right now, may very well end up going UFA. Might be a good fit for Columbus as well. Wayne Simmons, Semyon Varlamov. So if they decide, you know what, we like the kids we have in net. They have 3 of their top 10 prospects, according to Hockey News. 3 of them are goaltenders. So if they decide, you know what, we need a couple years to make sure that we've got everything figured out with goaltender, or we like Elvis, we're not sure we like the idea of him necessarily being one of our top 2 guys, though. Not yet. Varlamov is out there as a guy who probably won't make the $5.9 million he made this year, so he might be a cheaper option to Bobrovsky. Robin Lehner is going to be probably somewhat of a hot commodity, depending on how many GMs believe that this was the real Robin Lehner, and how many say, you know what, he had a really good year, but we want to see it over more than one season because his body worked before then. And this is when the dividing comes in, right, where people will say, well, it was different in Buffalo because he was in a bad place then. He's better now. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what Leonard gets this summer and how many teams are in on him. And Brett Connolly stands out as a low-cost, low-risk forward. He's going to be a higher cost than he's been to Washington over the last year or two, but he's going to be lower cost than some of the guys on the board. So if Columbus has a ton of cap space, there are names out there for them to get. It is a matter of figuring out who works and who doesn't. And I just went through just the top UFAs of note and just decided who might fit. I didn't go with a bunch of defensemen. You'll notice I didn't put Erik Karlsson up there and things like that because I don't think they need a lot of help on the blue line. I think their blue line's pretty solid. But Myers works for, I think, that physical side they're looking to add to that blue line. So we'll see. But they have the right coach. I think they have the right general manager. They have the right mentality, and they've made the playoffs 3 times in a row for the first time in the franchise's history. And if they keep it up, I'll be able to find some of their gear locally because the more popular, or the more successful they are, the more popular they get. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And for fans of Columbus, I think the future's pretty bright. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.